was brought up, and I'm not sure if they've made any determination yet, was they talked about breaking the town meeting into two parts, having it go Saturday all day, and then potentially go Monday night, but to limit that to the charter review, the charter warrant articles. And that was, the first time I heard it brought up was at the Charter Review Committee. And I know at that time, my take on it was that since there's no guarantee we'll get through the 32 articles preceding the Charter Review Committee articles, that it didn't make sense to me to break it up that way, that it almost seemed to me that you just start a meeting and continue it until it's finished, even if that means you go several nights after that. And then that also gives the opportunity or the option to take things out of order if that comes up. But the other, I mean, I do remember the first town meeting I went to when coming to town was probably all day Saturday, Monday night, Tuesday night, and I didn't go Wednesday night, I think. It was like, basically, it was a very long, it was, this predates Carrie Spidell coming as the town manager, Carrie LaFleur. So they got a lot more efficient after that, but that was a particularly long one. So that was my sense of it, and I don't know if any of you feel a particular way about that, but since we have to be there for the thing, I don't know if I should represent that view or a different view when it's discussed again. So if you have a particular feeling one way or the other, you can let me know. Okay. But it looks like it's going to go long. And which we know that because we also talked about potentially starting our meeting earlier on March 28th, just because it's going to be so many warrant articles. And that was really all I had. So with that, do we have any public comment from the public before we get started? I see our first presentation is here, and I know she's going for a record. So we'll start with the Council on Aging. If you'd please come up and introduce yourself, and let's talk about what you folks have been doing over there at. And I will say that, you know, like, I know that I shouldn't, but I typically represent the Eagle House Senior Community Center as the Boys and Girls Club for seniors, because that's what it seems like to me. It's just very event focused, and it's. I think I've described it that way since I think initially when I was on the Finance Committee, it sounded much more almost like a daycare center to me sitting on the Finance Committee, but it definitely seems like a very happening place. So
we've also been referred to as the frat house without beer, so you know, it must be the new pool table. But anyways, I'm Sue Doherty. I'm the director at the Lunenburg Council on Aging. And yes, this is record time. Basically, I'm asking for $100 above level funded. And that's because we always give an annual donation that's always been built into the Council on Aging budget to Montechusett Opportunity Council, which is Mock Nutrition, who supplies the Meals on Wheels and our congregate lunches. And unbeknownst to me, last year, they went up $100. So I found other funding for that $100 last year, and so I just wanted that put in the budget for this year.
okay.
And if you look at your packet, I just kind of included my annual report to Executive Office of Elder Affairs for FY18. And the numbers, you know, they go up slowly, but they're going up. Everything's going great. Activities, we have all kinds of new activities right now. We've actually branched out over to the Passios Gymnasium for a couple of programs that we don't have room for at the Eagle House. And one of them's a Zumba program. And I heard that there was between 30 and 40 people at one class. It was so popular, you know, which is great. We also do pickleball, which is, it's sort of like tennis, but it has a smaller racket, and I think you have 4 people that play. And Sandy LaSurch used to be the gym teacher at the Turkey Hill Middle School. She facilitates it for us, and it's catching on. She also does it in the summertime outside at the high school, but we hired her to do it out of formula grant funds from November to May, and then they go outside and, nominal fee, so that's going good. That started off slow, but that's starting to pick up right now. Do you have any questions on anything that?
Well, nothing that you have on the budget this year. I know last year there was an increase in time for the person who was going to be coordinating.
The outreach coordinator?
Was it, I don't know if it was that. It was tied to the
meal
mark.
site manager.
Yeah, it was tied to.
What it basically was originally the meal site manager position was 19 and a half hours per week, non-benefit. And through the years, different meal site managers came and went, and the previous one, she didn't want to work 19 and a half hours, but she was willing to do the paperwork. She wanted to work 2 days out of the 4 days we were serving meals. So what they did was put 2 kitchen aides into the municipal budget out of that meal site 19 and a half hours, and that worked. And that person was retiring at the end of last fiscal year, and we hired a new one. And I knew that this was going to happen, that, she was going to retire, and I wanted to get it back to the way it should be, having not full-time, but the 19 and a half hour meal site person there. And the 2 kitchen aides, I put them out of the formula grant, and I pay them completely out of that. So it works out well. One person to handle everything, to be the manager of the kitchen.
Okay, so that's working out.
That's working out fine, yes, yep.
Okay. All right, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, so Susan, have you seen an increase in residents?
Well, according to the 2010 census, I believe that it was the federal census, 2,106, I believe it was. With my fuzzy math, when I go through each year, when everybody turns 60 plus, we go through and we cross-reference what we have and what the town clerk gives us, and I'm counting close to 3,000. There's been also other studies done by, I think it was Tufts University, who say it's over 3,000. So, it's all approximate. But the next census is 2020, so that should be an accurate count. As long as everybody returns their census, make sure you do that.
So do you keep any kind of counts as to how many individuals are, at one point or another during the year, are coming in?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Is that on
in the back of this, in the report to the state, on the, which page is it? The one that looks like this one here.
Yeah, so is it the number 901?
Yes, and that's not just Lunenburg residents that came in either. That's not a population thing. That's everybody who we served coming through our door for the last fiscal year. Just one time. I mean, we had 901 people that we serviced. And if you go to the next page where it shows, I'll just pick one out of the blue, the unduplicated and the duplicated counts. For instance, we'll just do the top one, general information services, which is people walking through the door, asking a question, where do I go for this? Phone calls, where do I go for that? There was 396 recorded ones, and out of those 396, they came back 1,161 times for multiple things.
Wow.
So, and you can see that it really shows in the recreation section of it. Where is it? Recreation and socialization, which can be anything from bingo to painting to anything like that. Strictly that, 595 people came through the door. That's just counting that person one time. And they participated in all of those different programs 7,815 times during the year. This is a good software program we have. It's called My Senior Center. And when they come in, there's a kiosk there, a computer kiosk, and they have what I call the CVS card. And there's a red laser that they just flash their card in front of. And on the screen pops up all the activities for the day. So they just touch the screen, what they're there for.
Cool.
The volunteer hours, the same thing. You know, they're there to volunteer for Meals on Wheels. They did, 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's all recorded out for us. Sometimes we have to cherry pick because it's not exact the way we want it. We do the same thing with the transportation. Amanda enters it in on her computer each day, all the rides, and that's how we gather all of this information right here. But we do have a couple of new things, and I know that Mrs. Birchfield, the one who bakes the cookies here, she's become very involved with them, and we're really proud of them. Number one is we're in the process right now of making Lunenburg a dementia-friendly community, and we have a focus group all set up. I think we have right now 14 members on this focus group, ranging from the town manager, the school superintendent, a representative from Montechusett Home Care, Pastor Farah from the church across the street here, the library director, interim director, I should say, and just other people. There he is, right there. And it's a great group. We have public safety on there, a representative from the business community, and what we do is we try to make them understand what dementia-friendly is and how to deal with people who are afflicted with that, dementia and Alzheimer's. So we'll be doing trainings through the different businesses, the library, the police and fire. They'll be sending out questionnaires to people in town. Do you have a loved one? The police are going to do a database. So if somebody wanders or goes lost, we'll be able to find them quick, or hopefully find them quick. But along with that comes the Memory Cafe, which is part of it, which we started, which I personally, to be honest with you, was not interested in it when I was first told about it, because I was under the impression that caregivers wanted more respite and time for themselves to go out and do things like shopping and things like that, until I saw one of our Meals on Wheels drivers. Her husband, has Alzheimer's, and he goes with her driving Meals on Wheels, and she brought him to a program up there one day, and it was just, it's like, well, light went on. She really does want to be with him, and they want to go places together. So the Memory Cafe is basically a place to go for people with dementia and Alzheimer's and their caregivers for peer support, informal, relaxed activities, healthy brunch. We have volunteers. They're great. We have like 9 volunteers. I'm paying a facilitator out of my formula grant funds and whatever other funds come in for it. We have entertainment. We're taking field trips. We have a whole year's of activities planned. We're going to Fitchburg Art Museum on a private tour of a specialized Alzheimer's program there, Hidden Treasures. It's really, it's awesome. I mean, Marie can tell you.
It's really
Wow.
She not only bakes, but she's my cheerleader, too. So this has been going really good, and I'm finding a lot of support in the community from it. And since you're the Finance Committee, I'll just let you know that since September, we have received $13,330 in grants and donations for this program, which is awesome. We just got a $5,000 grant from the Community Foundation of North Central Mass and the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. Lions Club gave us $1,000, 501c3 support group at the Eagle House, $3,000. I can use formula grants for it. Central Mass Agency on Aging mini grants, Friends of Neshoba Valley Hospital, Lunenburg Friendly Seniors, the list goes on and on and on. And they're just, giving me money. It's a good thing to have. So that's why I'm able to level fund.
Right. And actually, when you said Amanda's name, it was actually, I think Mart was changing their formula. So I guess that question goes
Okay,
to
yeah.
how much of your budget is funded through, and not represented here because it's funded through other
Through
sources.
Mart, well, let's see, the town is now paying, I think it's 27. Amanda works 36 hours in the week. Mart is, the town is paying Karen 26 hours of her time? Yeah, and Mart is up to, we lessen the time for Mart. 8 hours? Actually, it's 6 hours. Mart is down to 6 hours.
Right, yeah, no, I remember that you were
Right.
saying that
And
you
it's working out
anticipated it.
fine, and Mart
Excellent.
came up with a new formula, an Excel spreadsheet for reporting all the stuff, and they're fine with it, and we're fine with it, and everybody's happy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other question that I had actually goes to, I know that on one of the pages, it references volunteers, and
Mm-hmm.
volunteers who are working through the tax assistance program, or is that
No, this
volunteers who
is
are
just
doing tax
strictly
assistance?
volunteers at the Eagle House.
Doing tax assistance.
No, this was last year's. The tax assistance volunteers were from AARP, so they came in and they gave free tax assistance. They actually cut us off their list this year because they don't have enough volunteers. They cut us and Groton.
Okay,
So if anybody wants to volunteer, I have a phone number for you back at the office for next year because it's a good program. And people are calling all the time, and we have to tell them, well, you know, try Leominster, try Fitchburg, try Townsend, and now they're overrun. So,
all right, then the other question that I had would go to what extent is the Council on Aging involved with the tax assistance?
the property tax assistance program?
Thank you.
The council, well, by virtue of my position, was appointed to that board. There is the assessor's office, there's a representative from there, the HR person for the town treasurer, and we have a citizen at large, Bob Hamill, on there. So we have a 5-member board, and right now, we only have 6 participants. We probably had 12 people come in. 6 came back with their applications, and all of them have been doing this for a couple of years. We still have 3 positions open. If anybody is interested, you can come up to the Eagle House and pick up an application. We have them right at the front desk. So you can get up to $1,000 off of your property tax by working in various town departments. So right now, we have DPW and sewer share a person with the building department and zoning. I have 3 positions at the Council on Aging. That's a Meals on Wheels driver, a custodian, and a kitchen aide. The library has 2. I believe 1 shelves the books. Is that it for children?
One woman holds out one children's room, and the other person does extra cleaning for us.
Right, yeah. And then the town manager had requested 2 positions. Those aren't filled yet, for over at the Passios, for a student hall monitor and a student monitor, a chaperone or something. What were the other ones? The treasurer wanted somebody. We don't have anybody to fill it. So,
Okay. And I guess the limits on that program are they?
they're set by the town.
So,
According to the state, it's all kind of all over the place. Every town can set what they want for their limits. Some towns don't have income caps, like we're 40,000 for a single person, 60,000 for a dual household, husband and wife. I believe the town of Groton, they just let anybody do it, you know. You could have $1 million home and $1 million in the bank, and you can still get money off. Some towns do it that way, and then I heard, and I was unaware of this, now you can have, if you are homebound and you desperately need this, you can't get out, you can have a volunteer do this work for you. So we had a meeting, this is all new, and how that would work with the W-9 and all, you know, it's all new. And I had asked the Executive Office of Elder Affairs about it, and they didn't even hear about it. But the town manager, went and looked up all the stuff, and it is there, it can be done. They raised the cap from 1,200 to 1,500, but I think you have to talk to the assessor's office in order to find out what the limit of how many people can actually do that, how much money is available for abatements.
Okay.
So, that's it on that one.
George?
Yeah, Susan, can you speak about the facilities? Do you feel that there's, with the maintenance issues that you may have, that they're getting the attention that they need
The maintenance issues?
over there? Are there any?
Not really. It's just your normal wear and tear. Kit Walker, who works for the DPW, does an amazing job. He comes over there every single morning and sets up, breaks down tables, because we still have those old 6-foot-long wooden tables that are just, they're terrible. He does that. We put in school dude requests when we have a leaky faucet. He's there that day. Kit is really good at what he does over there,
Okay.
so.
You don't have like any roofs leaking or anything like
Anymore.
that? Okay.
Nope, that was finally fixed, and it wasn't, the seals around the vents on the roof is 20 years old, when that addition was put on in '98. And the vents on the top, the rubber seals, I guess they are, had just deteriorated. So every time the wind blew and we had a big rainstorm, you'd get a drip. I mean, it wasn't huge, it was just a drip. So they went out and they looked for people to do it. Nobody wanted to do it because it was such a small job. So my son did it. He's a professional roofer, and he did it cheaply, and it hasn't leaked since, so.
Did he do it for cookies?
What's that?
Did he do it for cookies?
Oh, yeah, meatballs.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, bowl of balls, 2 in a bowl.
Any other questions? No? Sue, thank you. It's
Sue, thank you.
excellent
Okay, thank
information.
you.
Thank you for the additional information. Of course, I could be nice and just make sure, is there anybody from the floor that had a question on this budget? No?
Here's one.
Sue, you can't go away yet, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add something about that tax work-off program. The state max is $1,500 a person, and it's $12 an hour, and we offer $1,000 and $10 an hour. So I would like the town to increase that. We only have 6 people working at it at this point, so it's really, they had set aside like $12,000 because they expected 12 people to do it. And, there are only 6 people are applying, so I would think we easily could increase the amount and the hours, hourly pay.
Right, yeah, well, I guess that would be the way to go before discussing whether or not to increase the amount of funding available for that. Because I
Exactly.
know that that's a big concern as the tax increases come in, that you've got people who have trouble hitting those, and if
Right.
there's a way for people to abate some of that, then that would be a good thing.
Right, I think with the town, it behooves the town to help older citizens stay in their homes. And, the state allows this.
This program, yeah, no, it's an excellent program.
And
yeah.
I would really like to see the town increase that
Okay.
to help these people out more.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sue? Let me-
Just to let you know, we did have a property tax meeting a week ago, and that was discussed, and it's going into more discussion about it. And we're digging in to see exactly what other people are doing, and not just throwing it in there and making sure that it's done correctly.
I mean, what do you care what other people are doing? If the state allows it and it's the right thing to do.
It would just be for reference, just to see how it's, exactly, but just to reference who's doing what and whatnot. And I think it's a great idea. I
Yeah.
do. So.
Yeah, nothing wrong with benchmarking.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Sue, I just had a follow-up question that occurred to me sitting there. You said that there were more people came initially, I guess they showed interest, but then they decided not to proceed? what were the reasons? What generally, not specifically, but, was it the income level, or what is it that's keeping people from participating?
I don't know, they just don't come back with their applications. I would assume it would be the income level.
But it'd be good to understand that,
Right.
because maybe that,
Yeah,
because
but
we
they
also
don't come
can,
back,
we
I
can
don't
also
know.
raise that, we
Yeah.
can call them up,
I don't know who they are, they come in and they take it and they
okay.
leave.
But it'd
Yeah.
be good to know, because if we can raise the income level, maybe,
Yeah, I was thinking
you.
that too, if the state doesn't have an income level cap. I mean, when's the last time we raised it? $40,000 for an individual, $60,000 for a couple. That's not much money. And I would think that if the town was able to raise that, that would probably extremely
Oh,
help.
no, it's definitely, and actually, I mean, it really wasn't part of Sue's presentation, so I don't want to hit you up too much with
No,
it.
that's fine.
But I was curious about it because I think it's a good program, and I think if there's a way to beef it
Absolutely.
up, and I think,
Right.
get people interested in it and applying for it.
Right, absolutely. I
that
mean, it's
was
out there,
basically-
it's advertised, and it's on the website, and it's,
But the income level might really
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might.
be limiting a lot of people.
It could.
And
Yeah,
the
it
new
could.
part about having somebody do it for the person, that's great.
I think so, too.
We just gotta figure out how to get around, like Heather was saying, the W-9 issue, and, that person's being queried, and, I'm not the assessor, and I don't,
Yeah,
You just have to learn the process.
right.
right, and I think the other thing is, it might be worth after you folks finish it up, is, I'm sure that the Board of Selectmen will invite you over for a chat.
Yes.
Well, I know that's happening soon, so.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sue. So is there any other questions for anybody on the Council on Aging? No? Okay. And,
Oh, Medburn just came in.
yes.
Yep.
All right, so next up on our list is the library. So we'll, yeah, well, I have them in, yeah, that's okay. That's why Adam was the last one here. He knows he's last.
All
so.
right, good.
Hi, Martha. First, I'll start with, hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Best wishes, and
I'm so sad to go.
It's not that bad.
No, looking forward to a little bit more sleep.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so it's good.
Okay.
So, did you get all the handouts I left, like a pile of paper? Yes.
Did?
Apologize for all the paper. So why don't we start going through the PowerPoint? So when we looked at last year, FY looking forward, the 2019 budget and what we were going to accomplish had three major paths: collaborate, communicate, and create. And I think we've done that in spades. In terms of collaboration, the library, as Sue said, is involved in the dementia-friendly committee. We're closely aligned with the Historical Society or a committee and helping them out all the time. We are supporting local artists, photographers, painting, everything, having exhibits for them. Student exhibits, all kinds of things like that. Lions Club, we've been working closely with them, doing a couple of joint fundraisers that we had. Friendly Seniors, they meet at our building, and it's terrible, but I think it's the Friendly Seniors, I lose track, that do the May baskets. Every year, we now create displays so people coming into the library can see the gorgeous May baskets they make and then purchase them from the Friendly Seniors. We're continuing our Project Bread summer meal program, which is, going gangbusters. Twice a week, we feed the kids lunch at the library, and the kids love it, the parents love it, and Project Bread likes it too. Right now, we have two. We started off last year with one business network meeting at the library in the early hours of the day, and now we have two different business networks meeting there, and it's a really good thing because it ties in with Heather's push to get local businesses united and working together, and these people do. They help each other get business, and they talk about issues and problems they have, and they share information and share skills. So it's really doing very well. They're both growing, and if you drive by on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning early, like around 7:30 in the morning, you'll see our parking lot is almost full, and that's because of these two business networks. We're also partnering with Fitchburg State, both on community reads and also on the Alpha program, which I'm really pleased with. This is Muir's doing. I tried for a couple of years to get them to come to Lunenburg, and Muir has cracked the code, and he's got them coming, so that's great. And people love it because it's, easy parking, nice facilities, and they're learning all kinds of great things. Boys and Girls Club, we partner with them on all kinds of different levels. Very nicely, the Boys and Girls Club now allow us, if sometimes parents forget that the library is closed on Fridays, so they'll send their kids to the library till they come to get them out after they get out of work. Problem is, the library's closed, so now we've negotiated with the Boys and Girls Club, and they will take those kids that get left kind of in the lurch on Fridays, which is nice. We also partnered with Turkey Hill Elementary School this year and had 5th grade classroom visits. And so that was really nice to get to know the kids and for the kids to get to know the library a bit. And we just recently partnered with the Main Street Bank, and they want to offer the town a reading incentive for the kids. So children can earn $10 or $1 a book, and that money creates a bank account at Main Street Bank. But it's a nice incentive for the kids to get them going and really engaged with reading. We also have all kinds of local clubs that we support in terms of just providing space. And one woman said to me, you don't understand. You give us the space just to meet, and that means a lot to people. And I think we have every scout troop in Lunenburg meeting there now, which is great, right from Cub Scouts on up. Eagle Scouts come in the summer and do projects for us, like they fixed up the backyard garden for us last year or the year before. We have a Boston Bruins pajama drive going on now, where we've partnered with the Bruins who get pajamas for children in need. And our goal is 100 pairs of pajamas. And I think we're maybe a third of the way there, and that will run through March. In terms of communication, we have our e-newsletter, and that currently has about 2,500 members getting our e-newsletter that goes out once a month. We also have our website that helps us communicate, and Facebook page, and library displays, and all kinds of things like that. So we're very active, and thanks to the people we have on staff, we just are able to keep it going. In terms of creating, the programs we've got this year are just exceptional. Some of them are more than just a one-off program. Muir's done a lot with having programs that are phased over 2 or 3 segments, and one program we had with Nature Walk included in-house program, but also included getting out and taking a walk with a botanist and seeing what we have in Lunenburg. Those types of things. Website content we create. We're also helping nonprofits locally with their marketing. If they want to do some marketing, my staff is excellent at graphic design and things like that, so we've been helping a few organizations kind of beef up their flyers and posters, which we then put up in the library to get the word out on them. And one of the other things that we've created is what we call a library of things, which is not only can you borrow a book or a videotape or an audiobook, you can now borrow a telescope, a real telescope, which we saw Jupiter one evening from the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
So it's a real telescope. You can borrow a pickleball set, including in the net, and do a pickleball game, badminton game, volleyball game, all kinds of different things. And that seems to be the trend with the library these days. In terms of the numbers, We are busy. In terms of the people that come through our door, we're up about 5% over last year to, and this is extrapolated, but given where we are to date, from July to today, I calculated that by the end of the fiscal year, we'll be up to about 70,689 people that come through our door. Now, that's not, I have no way of knowing unique people, but that's people. 653 programs, with over 1,100 hours of programming done, over 4,000 attendees in total. Circulations up about 2% to 78,026. And the thing that I was surprised at this figure, but the value of the materials that we circulate over our circulation desk is $1,097,000. So that's, to me, astounding. Almost $1,098,000. Our ebook circulations, and this is for Overdrive only, which is just one application. We have about 2 or 3 other applications as well, but I can't get statistics on them until the end of the year. But in FY19, our e-circulations to date are 12,127. And our summer reading programs last summer literally tripled the number of kids participating. I mean, there were some days you could not, I was kind of afraid the fire chief would stop by and close us down because you could not get into the room. It was so crowded with kids. And we have over 8,000, and we now have a way to track this, which is nice. We have over 8,000 wireless sessions going on in the library.
And that would mean
Yeah.
individual use of computers, or?
No, that would be not use of our computers, but people coming in with laptops, people sitting out in their cars using our Wi-Fi.
Okay.
You can track that, okay.
Coming in the library and using the phones. I mean, we have people come in and they have something on their phone and they can use our Wi-Fi and they can print from there and things like that. So
Great.
Okay.
it's crazy, new technology. So in terms of the FY 2020 budget, and you know, who knew we'd actually get to 2020? That boggles my mind. But the FY 19 budget total was about $414, 509. And FY 20, we're asking $416,277, which is an increase of $1,767, which works out to be less than, it's basically 0% increase.
It's 0.4%.
0.004. Pardon?
0.4%.
Yep. Thanks, John. So that's what we're asking for. The state requirement, which I think all of you know about, the library is required to meet a minimum of town money. The town has to appropriate a minimum amount of money to go to the library in order for us to keep our certification. If we don't have a certification, Lunenburg patrons cannot use any library but Lunenburg, which would make a huge difference to people. So our budget request of $416,000 is about $2,600 over the town manager's target budget of $413,000. So she and I pared it down pretty well. In terms of why I asked for what I asked for in the beginning was a lot of increased salary costs. We have 3 positions to fill, mine, and also when Muir, who's right here, Hammond, he is the new director, and when he takes my seat, his seat will be empty, so we'll have to hire somebody to fill his shoes, and one of the other staff members recently left, and so we need to replace that position as well. So we've got a lot of new people coming in. And that generally means a little uptick in pricing. So we hope we'll be able to cover that. And I also have 1 promotion or reclassification that will happen as well. And that's under the SAP program, not the union program. So we've got a lot going on in terms of increased salary costs, but because of where the person that left was, and she was at the highest step, we've got some wiggle room, and so the change in the salary is only a little bit over $1,000 when all is said and done. I think it's $1,700 is the
Right.
difference. We also are trying to decrease our reliance on the Friends Group. They are more than generous with the money that they give us to pay for office supplies, programs, printers, copiers, all kinds of different things. So we want to make sure we're using them effectively and not making sure the money they spend on us is the money they should be spending and not just for every little thing, because the town has the primary responsibility in supporting the library. And, CW Mars is the network that the library belongs to. Without CW Mars, we basically can't operate. So as the state tightens their budget and gives less to the networks or libraries in general, that affects the downstream, and we are the downstream. So that will mean the costs will go up. And it's just a decrease due to a decrease in state funding. I always put in for an increase in library materials, and library materials is everything that we buy to stock the library with books, videos, everything under the sun, audiobooks, games, all kinds of things. And those prices increase every single year, especially, as I said last year, with the e-books and e-audio and all that. It's astounding. I can go through $6,000 in about 5 minutes of ordering, because every single book is, up to $100 or around $60 to $100, and that only gives you 24 uses, and then you have to buy it again in order to keep it. So, and we have no control over it. It's all, the control lives with the publishers themselves. So we try to do what we can and provides some access or some materials for Lunenburg patrons to access. We also purchase a special entity, which is called Overdrive Advantage, which if you have a Lunenburg library card, Overdrive knows we've paid extra for you to have first dibs on the books that I buy, or we buy for the library. And that's helpful to people who have to wait in queues for 3 months to get a book. But that costs extra money to do that. So I wanted, on the last page, I wanted to do what I do every year, is take a look at what the actual budget is. Yes, the town budget for last year was $414,000 and change. The Friends gave us $30,000 on top of that. The revolving fund or fines, we spent about $1,400 last year, and state aid funding, we spent about $15,000, and with state aid, I try to spend it. It partially pays for the CW Mars network membership, and then I use that money to purchase long-term kind of things like technology or something to do with the building. I just bought a projector with state aid. And our gift fund paid for our new sign and also paid to replace the LED bulbs in the main room. So we actually have light in the main room, which is nice. So the total of kind of other sources of funding for the library amounts to roughly $49,000 last year. To make the total last year of the actual budget, library budget, $463,357.
Now, when you say that, is that the budget or is that the expenditures?
Expenditures.
Okay.
But Yeah, it's the expenditures. This is what it takes to really run the library. Not 414,000, but 463,000.
Right, yeah, no, I just was making sure that there wasn't a budget to actual that would have
No.
465 over here and yeah.
No.
But if I made it, to clarify, that, you don't have to include that extra $49,000 when you're actually computing your minimum circulation material budget, which is what, 19% of the total?
It's 16%.
16%,
Yeah.
okay.
And it comes out this year, because the state has recalculated things, it comes out to $61,000 and change
Yeah.
for library materials that we have to spend. And again, that's the minimum.
And you've got that covered, I noticed that.
Yeah, we do. We do. I always make sure we do.
Yep.
So the next sheet that I have is also related to the whys of the budget, and some of this I've already mentioned. In the budget rationale sheet, which has our little logo on top, the state required appropriation, as I said, they've gone back and they've recalculated everything, which actually lessened the amount that the town is responsible for. And that number for this year is, for FY20 rather, is $387,400. The state requirement for library materials, as John said, is 16% of the appropriation, which brings us to $61,984. In terms of the salaries, we are going to be working with an increase of 2 hours for one union staff librarian who currently does this work on her own without being paid. So this year she will get paid for those 2 hours. Promoting a staff person, library assistant to staff librarian position under the SAP program. And because of the change in the library assistant position, we're able to decrease from grade 5, step 8 to possibly step 1 or a little bit higher, but definitely not step 8. So we're saving a little bit of money there. So the net change in the salary line is $1,185 over last year. So that's not too much, I think, anyway. Energy cost, I go to the Energy Resource Association and a couple other associations to see what they're saying about projected costs. And that was what I was using originally on my original budget, which Heather referenced in her email, I believe. But we brought my request down to, I believe it's $22,000 for electricity and $12,000 for heating, and which is really, if you add those two together, the overall, I call it energy budget, is just under by $500, which isn't much. But Heather did agree that if we do go underwater, the town will fill that gap for us. So, and then one of the other things we've been doing, and Mira's been helping me with this, we're looking at the 3 jobs that we have open, and we're restructuring each of them to just get more work out of those 3 positions and get more help and get more things done with the 3 positions we have. And we'll try that this year, and hopefully that will help us get everything done that we need to get done around the library. But I will give you a heads up that probably within a year or 2, we are going to need to add another position just to keep up with everything that we're doing down there. But that day will come, not right now. So I did want to make you aware of that. And as I said before, as the federal government retreats, the state retreats in their funding, and so does CW Mars. They have to increase their cost, and we have to cover those costs. They pass them on to us. And in terms of library materials cost, I was projecting an increase up to $68,900, but we agreed to reduce that. Heather and I did, to a 2% increase. So where we ended up, as I mentioned before, is a library request that the difference between the town manager and the library request is now only $2,684, or $85 if you round up. And a total budget increase, as I mentioned, of $1,767.48, or basically 0%.
Yep.
And I did the calculations, and we are still only 1% of the town budget, so that's my story. Any questions?
May I?
Yes, John.
On the Turkey Hill Elementary School pilot reading program, that
Yep.
was last year, and it was $7,200. Is that a pilot program that's gonna continue, or is that just, that was a one-time?
That won't continue next year because I asked both the town manager and the superintendent if they were willing, if either one of them or both of them were willing to fund the program again, and they both said no.
Okay.
So it will not continue because I don't have it in my flat budget.
What was, oh, I'm sorry.
What was it?
What was the participation on that? Was it strong?
What it was a fifth grade, which is, what do you think? 6 classes of about 23, 25 kids each were coming up to the library on a regular basis to visit the library, check out books, and et cetera, et cetera. What happened was, unfortunately, the teacher's schedule and our schedules just didn't work, and the weatherman's schedule primarily just didn't work well enough for the kids to walk up to the library from Turkey Hill. It was raining, it was snowing, or the teachers had a special program they had to take the kids to, or something popped up and they couldn't leave the building, or whatever. So it just, they did come, but not every single month, so
Okay.
that's what happened.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. I think the kids enjoyed it.
I'd like to go to C.W. Morris for a minute. You're right, it's obvious, you're right. The charge for C.W. Morris has increased quite a bit. It was $7,000 a couple of years ago. It's now at $10,000 this year and $11,000 next year. Can we pretty much anticipate that with the absence of state aid to state subsidy support C.W. Myers, which is important, we will be on the hook for maybe an additional $1,000? We should anticipate an additional $1,000 a year for the foreseeable future?
I
or-
would. I would. Yeah. I would.
Any better guidance? I mean, that just came out of my head right now, so.
No, that's actually what I do. I anticipate about $1,000 increase, and that is usually what it turns out to be.
Okay.
So unfortunately, as I said, the federal government, it all rolls downhill. Federal government gets squeezed, state gets squeezed, they squeeze us.
It's a valuable resource.
It is. It is tremendous.
George? Oh, you didn't?
No, I'm good.
When you said that the state changed they change the formula, or did they just change the?
They decided, and I'm not sure why, because they don't tell you, but what was factored into a town's appropriation, I could include the fine money, which is usually, we ballpark it at 12 grand. I never actually reach 12 grand, but the town appropriates 12 grand for the revolving fund money, so the library can keep those fines and use them. And that previously was factored into the appropriation, but they decided, I think maybe just to be fair because more and more libraries are not even collecting fines. So they took the fines out of the formula that you have to fill out. It's like a 10-page form you have to fill out with all the different costs and things and what you've spent in order to meet their appropriation guidelines. So they took the fine money out, and for us that meant a decrease of $12,000 per year, and they go back, you average out 3 years in order to get the figure for the next or the coming year. So they went back 3 years and decreased the appropriation, what they call the municipal appropriation requirement
Yep.
for the last 3 years, which gave us a lower amount this year than we would have had. We would have been over 400,000 if they had not done that in terms of the requirement. And we are at 387.
Okay, and then it seemed to me that several years ago, and I don't know if we've talked about it more recently, there was almost an automatic increase that had to be written in, that the budget had to be increased 2.5% in order to, wasn't,
Well, that's part of their formula.
well, that's what I was asking
Yeah,
about, did they change
It's part of their
that?
formula, yeah.
Okay,
If I
That
may,
gives them to the calculation, but yeah.
formula is take the average of the prior 3 years, money to the library, excluding capital, and you add 2.5% to that. So it works out to be slightly less than 2.5% is the hurdle rate, is the
Okay.
hurdle, yeah.
but now because they reduced that one segment, that took any, okay,
Brings it
so that
down.
kind of brought that out of the mix, okay, for this year.
For this year,
Okay.
yeah. And then we'll, move on from there. Yeah.
Okay. And then basically, just to clarify for anybody who doesn't know, the reason why you want to hit the threshold for the state or hit their formula has to do with what services are then available through the State Library Association, so that basically you can do the, actually, what are the services that we get because we do?
Well, as I said, if we did not meet the requirement, we would be decertified. If you are decertified, you are basically shunned. You have to be shunned by the rest of the library community. You can't go to Fitchburg and use your card there. You can't borrow anything from Lunenburg Leominster or Shirley, we borrow books from the Berkshires all the way, to the East Coast here, and then if you can't find it yet, then we go across the country and borrow things. You would not be able to do that. You would not be able to access the e-book collections. You would not be able to access the Boston Public Library collection, which their e-book collection is huge, and it allows people to kind of get out of the queue in our own little network, and they're given by the state $5 million a year to support the rest of the state. And you wouldn't have access to that. You wouldn't have access to any of the databases that we provide for free to you, like Small Business Resource Library and the Gale research databases and all kinds of things. It's pretty monumental.
No, if I may also, isn't there an effect on doesn't it affect our ability to take advantage of the LIG and MEG money if we don't?
The what?
The Library Incentive Grant and
Oh.
Municipal Equalization Grant, which I think is about $15,000?
No, that's state aid.
That's state aid, yeah.
That's state aid itself. The grant that John is referring to is the Small Library Incentive Grant. We are closing in on not being able to get that grant. It's about,
Really?
I think, $1,200 a year or something like that, but because it's based on population. We were once under 10,000. We are no longer under 10,000 in terms of population.
Yeah.
So we are not considered a small library according to that definition, but I haven't raised my hand and waved the flag to tell them that we are over 10,000. But they know it. It's in their database. So, that will probably go away shortly. I don't know when, though.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just have a couple.
Yep.
For the library materials, are you doing mostly new materials or replacement materials, or what? How does that work? For the library materials?
It's mostly new.
Okay, yeah, that's all I'm asking.
It's mostly new. Yeah, we do replace some
Yeah.
because some things get borrowed and never come back.
Right.
Some things come back and somebody was taking a bath at the time they were reading. Or they've been to the beach, things like that, so we have to replace them.
Okay. And then the other thing about the Friends of the Library spendings, do you guys keep track of what is being purchased with those funds? Do you have a set of books on that?
The Friends do.
Okay.
The Friends do. I keep a spreadsheet on what we've asked them for.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know, so we can at some point in time get an idea as to what expenses are going and being paid for by that, so we can understand the...
Well, one of the biggest expenses is they pay over $8,000 for museum passes.
Okay.
That's the biggest expense, and then they pay for our office supplies, our copier paper, our lease of the copiers, our printer, ink, small office supplies. They pay for the programs, the program speakers.
Okay.
They pay for all of those.
Okay.
Trying to think what else. Yeah, the endowment, we also, that 30,000 includes endowment money as well, and the Friends have an endowment fund, and every year, endowment money is spent on large projects, like the teen room renovation was paid for by the Friends.
Okay.
And when we painted the teen room, we painted the cafe, the Friends paid for those things. So it's pretty, as I said, they're very generous.
Yeah.
And it's, people constantly come in the door and say how wonderful, everyone thinks the library is new. Well, they think it's new because it looks new, and it looks new because not only the care and tending that Kit Walker does and Jim Bro did for the library, but also the money that the Friends put in to keep things looking that way, washing the windows, shampooing the carpets, helping us get new furniture. They reupholstered the furniture last year for us. Things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Any questions from the floor? Seeing none? Okay. Martha, thank you very much, and good luck to you. Get some rest. It was nice to meet you.
How many years was you with the town?
Martha, how many years were you with the town? 8? 6.5?
I know, you felt everybody else, I think.
Well, no, I was actually just doing it based on how long I was on the finance committee, so it was like, yeah, basically it was about the, so it feels like 8 for the finance committee, but it's not, it's only 6.5, maybe 7.
Good luck.
Yes.
So these are extras, I guess.
Yeah, those are extras. I don't know if anybody had, then I think we're good. Grab a cookie on the way out, though. Oh, there you go.
Cookies are better.
Okay, then we'll just move right along then to land use. Where does your budget start, anyway?
171. It's 171, 175, 176, and 241.
Okay,
Which document are you referring to?
the budget. There's nothing printed, I don't think, other than the budget. It's the it's just the regular budget, which hopefully you... Okay.
So it looks incredibly similar to last year. There are small increases for contractual obligations. Just over 96% of the budget is salary or associated personnel costs, mileage and longevity. And the remaining just under 4% is office supplies, publications, advertising, mailing. We're right on target with the town manager's target number, coming in at 352, 649.52. And again, only 13,000, slightly more of that is non-salaried items. So I think the email that the town manager sent out to the committee is fairly concise in that personnel has stayed essentially the same. With the exception of the building commissioner and building inspector positions, they're currently filled by temporary employees. We're working on a long-term solution. We tried valiantly over several advertising cycles to try and find an employee to fill that position. It hasn't worked, so we're exploring some alternative methods to get someone in there permanently.
Okay. Trying to think, was there an increase in the tech line for your group, or no? That was last year.
No, there was no increase in the tech line. We don't have a tech line.
Well, I meant in the sense of the software for the,
There is new cost associated with the software from last year, but it's lower than the price that the implementation of the software was. So originally it was anticipated that the maintenance costs would be slightly over $30,000. They're down towards the mid-20s. And there is a pool of money being built up through fees charged to permit applicants. And as more departments come online, that will, fill up a little bit faster.
okay, so the intention is at some point that's going to be more funded through fees than,
It will be partially funded through fees, yes.
okay, you don't know what percentage?
About 50%.
You're looking at about 50%.
And the thing with that is it's a living number because it's based on what permits come in, what the value of those permits are. So if we see a slowdown in building, or we see a slowdown in other permits coming through, or what we saw, and I don't know if Lunenburg saw it, but what was generally seen across the state during the original the origin of the recession back in 2007, 2008, 2009 was new house construction and large renovations went down, but homeowner renovations continued, but there tend to be a smaller scale, smaller dollar value. So the fee is based on the dollar value of the permit, not a fixed cost per permit. So that would be a fluctuating number year to year.
Okay. Questions for Adam?
Yeah, so specifically to the building permit software, have you seen a decrease in people actually having to come to the town hall?
We have. It's been online now to the public for about 4 months. And we do see fewer people in some respects. I mean, we still get a lot of walk-in traffic to ask about permits. We still get a lot of homeowners who submit their permits, but, and really where we're seeing a lot of it is the trades, electricians, plumbers. They generally prefer to do that kind of stuff because they're filing either as they're trying to get to the job or right after they've done the job, and it's easier for them to do it, in a block and in an organized fashion. And I think it'll be a while before we see a noticeable decrease, but we have noticed some lower volume of foot traffic.
Okay. Is there like a workflow engine in that where basically if there's paperwork that needs to go from like one department to another?
Yes, there is.
Is that implemented?
It is. So what happens is if you were to go home and say, I'm going to build a porch, you could go on the town website and under online services, there's a link to Viewpoint Cloud, which is the software that we use. You'd create an account if you didn't have one. If you had one, you'd log in. You'd pick building permit, and all you see is the form, and it tells you the information you need to submit. And if there's something that's required, like plans or an insurance certificate, you can't process the application without putting something in there. And so you fill out everything the way you think it needs to be filled out, you submit the documents you think you need to fill out, and there's a check in there that it gets to the building department, they review the information to ensure it's compliant with what they need. They're not looking at it as, can I approve this project, just does this have all the information? Once they approve that the application has all the information, the program disperses it to all the departments that are on the checklist for that type of permit. And then they go through, and until they've all approved it, the building inspector can't issue a permit. So the building inspector can be reviewing the plans and making his or her notes at the time, while the other departments are providing comment. And then once they have all those approvals, they can issue the permit, and it goes back to the applicant.
So, from what I'm hearing, is there less paper shuffling, like between buildings?
There is less paper shuffling, and I think what we're finding is that people are having an easier time filing their applications, because even if they choose to file paper and they walk into the office, previously there was a cover sheet. I don't know if anybody here has filed a building permit more than a year ago, and you had this sheet and you were running around town. Can I get the tax collector to sign it? Can I get the DPW to sign it? Can I get this person to sign it? You don't have to do that anymore. You submit it to the building department, they put it in, the tax collector gets it. We've had maybe half a dozen applications that have been stopped for one reason or another. And most of them are some sort of tax issue. That gets resolved, the tax collector signs off, and it moves forward through the process. It doesn't eliminate human fallibility, but it gives a much more robust tracking for who's signing off on things, and ensuring that, we're not issuing permits on properties that shouldn't have permits issued.
And so if in the process, if a transaction is sitting in somebody's office and it's not being responded to, does that get reported so that you know where it's being held up?
It does, because when a user logs on, whether it's myself or the applicant or another town department, they can see who's signed off, who hasn't, or who's blocked it. And they can pick up the phone, they can call the person, they can send an email, and there's also internal communications available through the program. The internal communications are good if people are reviewing applications. They'll see them. If someone has had a busy week and they forgot to log on, it's not going to help, but email or phone makes it a little bit easier. And I think what we found is, in general, people are pretty responsive within 7 or so days of turning around and looking at these things, that unless they're incredibly complicated or have some issue that they want resolved, moving them forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Adam, it sounds really neat. I get the fact that from a consumer standpoint, for me, it would be just wonderful. Are there any opportunities for cost savings down the road with this?
I think that there potentially is. And I think what it does is, as we implement the inspection portion of it, it'll allow for better tracking of inspections. We'll have a better idea of what our inspection profiles look like. There's the ability to produce reports and see if we're spiking building permits at certain times of year over a longer period of time. But a lot of that analytical stuff comes over a 5 or more year period to get a decent picture of it.
But there is that possible opportunity. I have a follow-up question on that. Then does it mean that all of a sudden the building permitting process becomes a little more scalable? That is, that if you with the same number of people, you can actually throughput more work?
Yes. And as more people input their own applications, it certainly becomes scalable on a larger
Cool.
scale, I guess.
Okay, and then the only capital item that was coming through was on the
Master plan.
master plan.
And so, earlier or later last year, the town manager attended a capital planning conference, and there was a lot of discussion about the ability to do capital funding for master plans, because they're a 10 or 15-year item. They're certainly always cost more than $10,000. And she approached the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, and after some discussion, the Planning Board felt that it was something that they would like to do, as our master plan is nearly 20 years old, and their original request was $100,000, and in the process of finalizing the capital plan, it was evident that while they could fund that, not funding it at that amount would allow for other items to be funded that would have other impacts on the community. And a master plan very rarely takes less than 2 years. So the board felt that writing half the plan and starting to implement some of it in the first year would allow for the second year to approach more funding. Additionally, there are some grants from the state coming out in this coming month that they could apply for. Having matching funding would certainly give them some advantage in that. So I think we're going to pursue that as well to potentially wrap up all the funding at once.
Okay, so next year will be less about bylaws and more about the master plan?
No, there'll still be a lot of bylaws.
A lot of bylaws.
It gets me used to being at the end of everything.
Okay. John?
Well, one more follow-up then. With the master plan, is this a vehicle into which we might fold the Vertex study, the building reuse study? Or
I was hoping to avoid that grenade.
Oh, I'll tell you what,
No,
it's way...
It all depends.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to evade. I say avoiding the grenade in jest. The master plan is really a product of what the board feels it wants to pursue. There are 9 identified chapters. One of them is town government and facilities, or that's generally what I call it. It has some other fancy name under Chapter 81 or Chapter 41. But yes, and I don't know that the Vertex study itself would necessarily get folded in, but it's evident that town property and buildings are clearly a matter that is of much importance now.
Sure.
And have been identified as a long-term issue, not only the 5 buildings that are being dealt with currently, but all town property. We have a $75 million high school that we just built, and obviously maintenance and upkeep of that is important. Turkey Hill has a limited life currently as it stands, and will have a significant capital output sometime in the next 10 or more years. Same, the police station's 10 years old. There's probably going to be, or the public safety building, I don't want to make the firefighters angry, they were good to me. There's a lifespan there that needs upkeep and maintenance. The DPW, we're seeing that there's obviously issues there that need to be taken care of after, a long period of time. So all of those would certainly get folded in. The thing about the master plan is it's not a granular document. We're not going to get down to the numbers as detailed as the Vertex study. Yeah. It's more of your 10,000 feet. You're looking at the big picture. And what I like to say is, one of the things that drives a master plan is vision and visioning. And where do people see the community in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? And what you're trying to do is set the table for policies and objectives and goals that will move you in that direction. That, sure. In 10 or 15 years, you're going to look back and say, oh, that was great. We thought that was awesome 10 years ago. Didn't work out so well, or we tried it and this is what it was. So now let's shift it a little bit. Let's pivot on that and create something new. So it's more of a roadmap that you check in with. You create these omnibus goals that are really kind of up in the sky, and you're like, this would be great if we had the most walkable, kid-friendly community ever. Yeah. And then you kind of try and tick off some objectives that will get you closer to that, and then you reassess as you move forward.
Sure. Okay.
So that's the long answer to your short question.
Right.
Well, thanks a lot.
I mean, basically, I know that when they had started to go through the process the last time, one of the things that I was looking forward to was that, you would hope that the master plan could drive the budgeting process. And that's the guidance that, to some extent, because basically that's a really typically a broad view of what the needs of the town are, what the current demographics are, what the, potential needs of the town are going forward, and really gives people a chance to say, this is what I think we really need to be focused on. So, it'll be interesting to see how they work the process this time.
It will, and I think, as with all things, participation is the key, and the more people that will come out and voice their opinions, and I know that there's a number of people who have opinions and voice them boisterously, and maybe don't necessarily bring them to town hall or to public meetings and do that, will find a voice through the master plan process and come out and participate, because the purpose is not hey, we think this is how we should do it. It's what does the community want, where do we want to go, and,
Sure.
and getting people to participate in that.
Okay, all right. Thanks for the
your
update.
fulsome answer.
Yep. Any other questions? No other questions? Questions from the floor? Mr. Luck?
I apologize, I forgot last time to introduce myself. Carl Luck, 50 Sunset Lane. Just a couple questions in two areas. One, on the Conservation Commission, there's one salary line item. Is there only one employee in that line item? Okay. And what is it that drives the change in that salary from 19 to 20?
Union contract.
Union contract. So 6%, it looks like 6%. So we have a 6% union contract increase.
I used the number that was given to me by the accountant for.
Yeah, it could be a step, it could be a
I
step
believe there
in
is a step
COA,
increase
yeah,
and a union, a COLA.
yeah.
Okay.
Because usually a step increase is going to run, well, I don't know what they run in town, but they tend to run more like 3% for that, and then the COLA on top of it is
Yeah,
what's
they're
going to
probably
do that,
pretty
yeah.
close to each other.
So 6% is a normal increase in municipality.
Well, no, it's
We need to
basic.
work on that, I think. 6%, nobody else.
No, I'm not saying that's typical, and I'm also not saying, I don't even know how many steps there are. I mean, basically, I'm just saying, like, if you look at the school budget, you'll see that, okay, we have steps and lanes, and we
Yes.
have people moving along, so I would think that at 6%, that would be the same thing here, if somebody's moving
Yeah, I think it's
on the schedule.
something we should look at. 6% is just too much money for salaries from the town. You know, people paying the taxes don't get that much. So it's concerning. Okay, the other questions are in the area of the permitting process. And I remember when that first came up, and I thought the expectation, and this is good news that it's mid-20s, because I thought when it was first discussed a year ago or whenever it was,
It was closer to the mid-30s.
Mid-30, yeah, it was like 35 or 36, I think.
Yeah,
34 maybe?
It was probably 33, 34.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because it was over, and at that point, the strategy was that it was going to be, they didn't want to put it all in the fees. This is my recollection. You want to put it all in the fees. I'm not sure why, because it's the cost of fees, but okay. The decision was made to sort of split it between fees and town, and I think the process was to look at what we take in fees, and that 5% was reasonable, and 5% would generate about half of the cost.
Correct.
Okay, so if the fees are still generating half of the cost, then of that 20, so that should be about $17,000 or something. So the town should have to pay very little. So is the amount that we projected, the 17,000 or 18,000 or whatever it was, is that going to come from fees and the town makes up the difference? How's that going to be managed?
I would have to look at the fees, but that's the intent.
That's,
And again, as I said, the caveat to that being, fees are collected at different amounts in different years, and percentage based of those fees is going to obviously change the amount that's brought in annually.
yeah. So how is that going to be managed? Because somewhere in the budget, there must be a $25,000 estimate for that cost.
It is within the IT budget.
In the IT budget
Correct.
under software maintenance or something? Okay, great. So all the costs are in there. How are we going to know what the residents have to pay of that cost, and where is that going to show up?
That's in the fees and the revolving accounts, I would think.
But somehow we've got to figure, quite a bit of it comes from the general fund, not from the fees.
But we don't know how much, right. I
How are
understand
we
what you're
gonna know?
saying, is that
How are we
you don't
going to
know how
know?
much,
That's my
right.
question. What's the process to determine that the right amount, that the difference of the increase in the fees comes from the taxpayers, and it just doesn't, because right now, it's all in the category of the tax base, right?
Well, that's where it shows up, but then the revenue side also shows fees. So the revenue, so it's almost like you can't, what it's hard to do, looking at the budget itself, is to parse out how much of that is fee-based and how, it's the same thing reading the chapter, the state funding, is you don't really
Right.
know. But I would think, I mean, Karen might be a better person to ask about this, but in terms of, it shows up in the budget not just as a tax item, it also, the fees as part of the revenue projections would also be in there somewhere.
So is the revenue projection line item fees, is that 5% more this year than last year?
This I don't know. This would be it's not.
Do
But it
you
shouldn't
know,
be more than last year if the cost
I would
is.
expect it's not, because
Right.
I don't believe started collecting until later in the year. We haven't finished the fiscal year currently. I think we have about 6 months of collected revenue.
Well, I think there's probably about 4 months, because I think it probably went live in like the October timeframe. So, for this year's budget, for the fees that we have to pay, they are sitting right now in the IT director's budget, the full amount, because we had no idea what we would be generating in fees.
Absolutely.
So for this particular year, what we would do is, at the end of the year, whatever we've collected in fees, we would reduce the expenditures in the general fund by that amount of money and zero out the fee account. So that the fees that were generated in this fiscal year are used to offset that cost. And that would be the same thing that we would, so it would be a revenue source in the FY20 budget, but because we haven't been doing it long enough, it's a hard number to predict.
Yeah, and I guess any of these numbers are hard to predict. I'm wondering at the end of the year, how are we going to reconcile and make sure that that fee money it offsets the software cost?
I believe that's what Karen was just explaining.
So at the end of the year, somehow we'll know.
In July.
Yeah, but will you know what came from the 5% increase?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it goes in,
It's
it's in a revolving
totally
account.
separate fund. The 5% fee that we're collecting, we had an article on at town meeting to establish a revolving fund for those fees. So all those 5% fees are going into a special account. So come June 30th, we'll know exactly what's in there. So we'll take that money and reduce the expenditures that were charged to the operating budget and move it over to that
Okay.
revolving.
But it all happens during the reconciliations.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I didn't realize is, so when we get a fee, if the fee's $200, there's a separate.
Correct.
There's a
And-
separate
and-
5% check that's written, that goes
Correct.
into this other account.
And the way that the program works is it charges a total fee. The user pays that fee plus if they pay by credit card or e-check, there's a fee on top of that for the e-check processing. If they don't want to do that, they can walk in and hand us a check. And the program actually calculates out the permit fee and the technology fee separately. And we have reports and ledgers that parse them out.
So there'll only be one check, and 5% of that check will go into this other
Correct.
account?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not, okay, because that sounded very complicated. So, yeah.
But it's all.
So we're going to take
identified and-
essentially all the fee, every
Correct.
fee that comes in after some date or whatever, 5% of that will get put over here.
Correct.
Great. Thank you. Simple, and we'll all know at the end of the year. Great, that was it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. George?
Yeah, quick question, Adam. The software licenses
Yes.
and maintenance fees,
All included in the 25 or so thousand.
yeah, is that based on the number of users, or is it just a?
No,
flat-
it's, we have unlimited users. It's essentially based on the volume of use that we have. When we initially did it, we calculated 3 years worth of permit numbers, we averaged that out. They assigned us some fees based on that, and then once we implemented it, they tweaked it a little bit, which is what got us the savings.
Okay, so you can redeploy this to whoever. is
Correct,
capable
yeah,
of using it?
and the intent is to continue rolling it out for everybody as time goes on.
Yeah, and the costs won't scale?
No.
Okay.
And it's all internet-based, so we're not paying for upgrades, so it's all covered. So it's cloud-based, so as they update it, we get instant updates. We don't have to wait for them to come out and do this patch or that patch, and it's much more streamlined than I've seen some of them be in the past.
Okay.
Anything else for Adam?
No.
Adam, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've now removed the agenda from my screen, so I don't know what we're doing next. So we'll address minutes, I think. Hannah had sent out the minutes from, yeah, we're in February now, so January 24th.
Yep.
So did people have a chance to review them?
Yes.
A lot of,
Any questions on the minutes at all?
no, a lot of details.
A lot of details,
Yep.
yep. There's, it was
Actually, it was excellent.
excellent.
Covered a lot of details, very well organized and very clear.
Okay, then I'll be happy to accept a motion to accept the minutes of January the 24th.
So you can have a motion to accept the meetings of January 24th.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jay seconded, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any committee reports?
No.
No? Okay, do we have any town
Well, I don't-
manager
I
or
don't know
finance
if
director
anybody else
reports? I'm sorry?
It says, I don't know if anybody else does.
Oh, you don't?
I don't.
You don't, okay. I don't expect a lot of committee reporting in the next couple of weeks. Then, Karen, do we have a finance director report?
Well, I just want to share a little bit of information. Nothing. The ClearGov site, the numbers have finally been reconciled, so we're hopefully going to go live with the site. As far as I'm concerned, we're ready to go live, but I didn't want to do that without first speaking with Heather. She'll be back Monday, so I would expect that the site would go live next week sometime.
That's super.
What's the functionality?
That's the transparency, so that you can go in,
Yeah.
you can bring up, as an example, you can bring up 2019 for the town of Lunenburg. You can see all of the budgeted revenues, all of the budgeted expenditures, where we're at this point in time. You can click on things, and like if you clicked on, you'll see like a pie chart when you open it, and it's broken down by the different categories that we vote the budget. So like if you saw a general government piece of the pie and you click on that, it'll open up and it'll provide you with the detail amongst the departments as far as what the breakdown is within that category, and it'll tell you what the budget is and where we're at this point in time. So it should be a useful tool. And you can, citizens would even be able to put in their annual tax bill and see how it's broken down as far as what services, how much of their tax dollars are spread out amongst all the different services that are provided to the town, and that sort of thing. So the next step in that is the budget, being able to enter the budget into that program, but we're a little bit behind on that because we've, already got budgets from departments, and Heather has her budget, but we could still get them in there just to go through the process this year and hopefully use the tool next year completely.
Wow.
That's excellent, yeah.
So who's building the databases?
Well, the company is called ClearGov.
Yep, but your office is providing the data
Yes.
to like spreadsheets or?
Downloads from our financial software that we use now.
Okay, yep.
It's been fun. Mark knows, because he saw it's been fun. But I was so happy today when the final piece was finally
had
put
fun with
together,
it.
so yeah, that's all I have.
Are they gonna post it anywhere so people in the town know? Like, I don't know, a notice in Lunenburg Ledger or something to let people know?
I'm sure that Heather will put it
The website.
someplace, but there is a link on our website for the software as well, so everybody will have access to it once we're set to go live. So, that's the one thing I have.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good one. So people can have fun with numbers. That would be great. All right, then I just want to take a few minutes at this point just to review. One of the things we talked about was, as we are going through this process, since there's not a whole lot of lead time between the public hearing and having to write what we have to write, our report for the warrant, I just wanted to take some time at the end of each meeting just to talk about, are there anything that you're hearing or any questions that you might have that are coming up that you might want to make sure that we're continuing to keep in mind, so that when we get to the public hearing point, or even before then, that we could potentially bring some of these questions forward. For example, one of the things I know that we've got out there as a something to check into was just the whole notion of cost-benefit analysis related to the storage tanks for the fuel. So and wanting to make sure that we have that information before we get together on March 28th, which is going to be the public hearing. And we'll probably, because next week we have police and fire, I'm sure we'll hear more about that next week from their perspective. But is there anything else that you folks are starting to see or think in terms of as we start to approach or go through the process? John?
Just one broad issue, which is keeping our eye on full-time equivalents. And that's prompted by the OPEB, long-term liability, seeing how, what current steps we can take to minimize our growth in liability over time. This is not to say that we don't need to, in any case, add full-time equivalents, because the full-time equivalents, because the town is growing, and there are some real opportunities to have more people on board here for service delivery and also for freeing other people to do work that they ought to be doing now. So it's not that, but just in my mind, now I'm sort of editorialized, just be a little, keep that foremost in our minds.
For me, it's also a little bit like look at the target budget, look at how much we are above, and understand a little bit from every department head, is there a trend? Like, will the trend go similar in the next years, or do we need to plan for surprises?
Yep.
I think we should at that moment gather if there are any upcoming surprises they already know.
I think in tandem with that, listening to the Council on Aging and the library and their dependency on funds outside of the budget, and those funds depending on government formulas, and like Martha's line item where the formula worked against them because it reduced the amount by the fines revolving fund. So it concerns me that they're depending on all this money that's not written into the budget that they really can't depend on because it's based on formulas that are out of our control. Or, I mean, how does the Friends of the Library decide how they're going to spend their money and how much they're going to give the library? So just in terms of keeping tabs on, you know, these expenses, these vital services are being paid for things outside of the town budget. And if those funds dry up for some reason, we need to either be prepared for that or just understand how that's working. I mean, that's $30,000 in the library, that the library depended on last year. And I think that's kind of a significant figure.
Okay. Any other thoughts? No?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
sorry.
maybe there's one more point. Last year we had a few requests, I would call it, for unfunded liabilities. That means things we have to deliver, but we don't have the money for. And I think we need to be very careful in all the presentations if such things pop up, because they need to be done, whether we want or not.
Mm-hmm.
How would you anticipate tracking that? And it was like, so basically almost having
I know the department heads hear what's going on in their area.
Right.
So I think they should have a pretty good understanding if something is being discussed currently, which can become a law, which will be enforced at a given time.
Okay. I
So
get it.
it's a little bit be predictive or anticipative.
I got it, okay. Yeah. When you were saying unfunded liabilities, I was thinking that that's actually what OPEB is supposed to be addressing. So it's really kind of a unfunded mandates.
It's,
Unfunded mandates that the state is, has some of, so. All right, but yeah, that's definitely a good one as well. Yeah, they're all good thoughts, and And again, we'll just, like I said, take a few minutes at the end of each of the meetings going forward to just reflect on what we're hearing. And again, if you have any questions based on tonight, we can come back and address them again next week, or anything left over from the budget, because that was a lot of information to try to absorb all at once. All right, with that, do we have any other comments from the board? None. Any comments, public comment from the public? It's not for notes, they're for cookies.
It's a good place for my notes, and on my way back, I'm going to use it. And they are delicious. The cake is even better, though. Just on two subjects. One is that you just talked about, the OPEB, and I'm very happy to hear John's comments on that, because, it's a huge liability, but what's hard to grasp, and even having gone to several workshops on it, is that it looks way out in the future. It's not something, as you said at the last meeting, Terry, that comes up tomorrow due. It projects your costs a long time in the future. The good thing in terms of having a real impact on that number is not putting money in the bank. It's changing your whole system, so that you can change that number tomorrow. If you could magically, and I'm not advocating it, if you could magically change the contracts and how much funding the employee makes, or what benefits they get, it could go to zero tomorrow. Now, you can't do that, but what you can do is you can work on new contracts. Not change anybody who's here today, but if we're missing that opportunity on every contract negotiation that we're in, then shame on us, and that number is just going to keep growing much quicker than I think 0.4% that we're setting aside today, which is another whole story, and I agree with Mr. Rogers on that one. But I think it's important, and we need to have some discipline to do that, because the contracts come up, we go negotiate them, we get the same thing. If we don't start looking at the contracts, we're not going to change that number, and it's growing probably 10 times quicker than we're putting money aside for it. So I hope somebody's thinking about that when they go to contract negotiation.
I think the HR director role Heather is requesting in a new budget. One of the purposes of that role is definitely assist us in those renegotiations of all the contracts. So I think that will make a difference.
Yeah, I hope so, because again, it's a nice benefit, but it's a benefit that people out in the working world who are paying these taxes don't get. There isn't anybody funding my insurance. I'm retired, and I take care of myself, and the government takes care of me. So it's not being cruel to the people. It's just trying to get to a place we can afford. The other one is that I'm happy to hear you mention that is the fuel tanks. And I watched your meeting the other night. It's really thrilling. It was a great discussion. And I'm happy to hear you say you're going to pursue the cost analysis, because we really need a thorough cost analysis. And the only thing, and I'm sure you think of all these things, but there's a lot of elements. The one element that we usually miss in any of our cost analysis when we're buying capital or doing anything is the recurring cost. So please don't forget that those tanks are not going to be free sitting there. There's going to be inspections, there's going to be issues, there's going to be insurance. All of those costs got to go into this analysis. So it's not easy. I'm happy you're going to do it. I hope it's done somewhat visibly. I'd love to at least sit and listen, or even participate if I could help.
Just a question in terms of, I'm assuming that, because you're aware that those come up, are we not currently going through testing of the current?
Oh,
So it may be a wash. I guess that's what I'm.
No.
They don't have to inspect the current one?
If we don't have tanks, we don't have to inspect them.
But we do now. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Those are going. That's a given, right?
No, I know.
We've already
I'm
put the
just
money.
trying to think in terms of, because I don't know where those are located in the budget to do a comparison to what the anticipated cost might be. So, yeah.
Well, all I'm saying is that we're doing a trade-off. We're going to own tanks, or we're not going to own tanks. If we don't own tanks,
that's true.
It's easy. There's no insurance, there's no anything else. If we own the tanks, we're going to have to inspect them. I'm sure there's lots of ways the government are going to force us to spend money on them. We're going to have to insure them. I think putting them next to the MULPUS is crazy if we actually go that route, which I'm interested to see the cost analysis. If we go and again put them next to an environmentally sensitive area, then shame on us. If they're really primarily to support the safety, why don't they put them over there? So, there's more thought that needs to go into this. It's pretty clear and simple to get rid of the tanks we got.
Yeah.
And perhaps we can't do it, there's a lot going on right now. Perhaps we can't do this right in the amount of time. Maybe we should try this other program for a year while we figure out what we want to do. And then we'll have some experience with, does the program work? Doesn't it work? What's it really cost? And be able to make the right decision. Because once those tanks are there, we're on them, we're going to pay for them, whether we remember to put the cost in or not.
I assume the other program we're talking about is a WEX credit card?
Well, there's
Yes.
several fleet,
Yeah.
yeah, there's several fleet options, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that whole picture, but I know there's an option.
Yeah.
That we don't have to have tanks. We don't have to go in the gas business. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I know that part of the cost-benefit analysis is also going to be the whole risk management situation, but yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Terry, who does that? Who's doing the cost-benefit analysis?
I think to some extent we will, and I think
Okay.
to some extent we'll use Heather on that, and Jack was going to come up with some of the costs that he's aware of,
Okay.
and we'll just pull those things together. And it'll be more discussions with the town manager, I think.
Okay.
But I also know that Capital Planning Committee also addressed this, but addressed it without the notion of the fleet being, the fleet management being an option.
Yep.
And I don't know if they would have come down with a different decision or not, and I don't know if there's a way to revisit that, so.
Yep, I don't know either.
Because that was the Capital Planning Committee's recommendation, so. Okay, then if there's nothing else for tonight, then I'd be more than happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Have a cookie. Have the